Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of It's No Secret with Dr. T. With me today is another rebroadcast. I'm bringing back episode number 3. Now, my guest was Wilson Lawrence, and this was recorded way back in August 2017. And this has also been one of the most popular episodes ever on It's No Secret with Dr. T. Now, Wilson is a performance, personal development, and English communications coach. And he's actually based in Germany, which is pretty interesting. And I came across him initially hearing him on another podcast, which we do discuss at the beginning of our conversation. But what I really liked about this particular conversation with Wilson was the content of what we covered. Now, this episode is titled The Morning Routine, and we do talk about the morning routine, but we also talk about certain distractions that go on in your life, asking the right focusing questions. Yet when you need to add value to what it is that you do, social media winners and losers, and also the bandwagon effect. Now, if you're wondering what the bandwagon effect is, now Wilson will explain a little bit more, but it's when everybody joins a cause or a movement because it's become fashionable and popular to do so. So remember the push-up challenge, the ice bucket challenge. We talk about that in a little bit more detail and why people tend to get involved. It is a really, really interesting conversation to have with Wilson, which is why I wanted to replay it again. So sit back, enjoy it, and I will come and talk to you again at the end. And the thing is, at the moment where you're in Germany, I'm in Australia. The idea is people will finish this conversation, and I think when I listen to you, I heard you on Jacob Nawrocki's show, yeah. Operation Self-Reset.
Operation Self-Reset, that's correct, yes.
And you were talking about the power of routine.
Yes. Well, actually, it was more focused in on the morning routine because, some of my friends and followers know that my life circumstances changed just over a year ago, and I had to basically survive. So rather than fall into pools of self-pity, and depression, I looked up and the answers came through. First of all, it was through Jacob Nawrocki of Operation Self-Reset. Then I found the Mentee podcast. Then I found the other podcast was NLP, and it was Mindset by Design. So these were really the catalysts for my transformation over the last year and a bit. Oh, and then and Brendan Bouchard.
Okay, because I remember we were talking about Brendan, but when you were doing that morning routine, that I remember you on that podcast. When I heard you talk about your morning routine, that changed my morning routine big time.
Oh, okay, I'm flattered to hear that.
Totally changed it. I think the biggest thing was when you said when you wake up first thing in the morning, that's when your brain's it's had its rest. I'll let you explain it. Why, how you start that morning part. I won't steal your thunder.
No, it's okay. It's just that if I contrast what my morning, I never had a morning routine before this. What I would do is I was a very bad sleeper, probably because of the situation I was in. So my subconscious mind wouldn't rest. So I would do things like get up at 2, 3, maybe 4 o'clock in the morning, get on the couch with my dog and just watch Jerry Springer or Jeremy Kyle or something like that. Watch any old trash. Yeah, I think The World's Dumbest Criminals and things like this. Just rubbish, and it was counterproductive because what I then realized was that it was actually influencing my mood and my emotion throughout the day. And I only realized that when the awareness of that came along. And then, of course, Jake interviewed, what's his name? Hal Elrod, who was the author or who is the author of The Miracle Morning. And I was quite taken by this episode. I mean, there were some episodes on Operation Self-Reset that I'll always remember. But anyway, I started this morning routine. So it's about savers. These are the activities. The activities are, so you start your day in silence. And the reason behind that is what a lot of people tend to do is they'll wake up. The first thing that they'll do, they'll check their social media. Yeah, and so the brain then goes into a reactive mode, and it's very easy then to get pulled into other people's agendas. So the morning is not your own. So the idea behind waking up and going into complete silence for 10, 15, 20 minutes or however long you want to do it is that your mind can roam, and it's your morning, it's your time. Then the next one is to develop affirmations. Affirmations are statements on how you see your life running, but you write them as if you have it now. So you're programming your subconscious mind to go out and do the things that are necessary in order to attain that. Then
is that sort of more like creating that emotion? So you feel that emotion. So your body can't tell the difference, or your brain can't tell the difference between what's real and what's make believe.
That's right. Yeah.
So yes. you create that. So the affirmation is creating that feeling. So you know what it's like to already achieve that goal. So therefore you go, oh, I want that some more.
That's right. So what I didn't realize was that if you read your affirmations at night, just before you go to bed, you're also programming yourself for success the next day. And so from there, I learned that it is possible to prime the emotions or the dominant emotions that you want to feel the next day. So, for example, if I was to say, tomorrow I want to feel a sense of accomplishment, I want to feel a sense of progress, achievement, happy and relaxed. The next question then is, well, what are the activities that I need to do in order to achieve those? I'll write them down, no more than 6. I'll read them the night before, and then you just do them the next day, and then you sit down and say, well, yeah, I do feel that way. And even if something negative comes up during the day that threatens to derail you, you can deal with it, and then you get back on track. It's really amazing how it happens. And anybody who knows me well would say Wilson would never, ever do anything like that. And so I'm a fan.
So, because I remember you talking once before, or when I was listening to you, and you were talking about doing the most important things first. So yes. When you're talking about your affirmations the night before, are you looking at what needs to be done the next day, and you're saying, I'm going to do... That's a different thing altogether?
That's different altogether because, for example, what I can do is I can say, and this comes from the book The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, and I can say in any one of my 7 spheres of life, what is the one thing that I can do to improve, for example, my personal relationship with one of my clients, such that by doing it, it will make everything else easier or unnecessary.
That is an awesome book, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Also, this is something else that has added fuel to my transformation. The fact that you can focus everything that you do on this one question if you ask the correct question, and it's amazing. So you still, I can still be the clown and a bit of an idiot at times, but when it comes to my morning and I'm asking my focusing question, even when I'm sitting on the dunny, yeah, it's the same. You
can say dunny on this show. Dunny on this show is fine. I remember Zig Ziglar doing a talk many years ago, and he was talking about you have 2 people that are like public speakers, could be motivational speakers, and you got one who's spreading a message of whatever the message is that he's sharing, and then you have another person sharing the same message except he uses profanity all the way through it. Now, if somebody is deciding between those 2 people, they're usually going to go with the person who doesn't swear, because they know what they're going to get every single time, whereas the person who does swear, they're not sure what they will or won't say in a certain situation, and you never know who's in that room, and all it takes is one person to be offended, and that can bring down a whole event.
It spreads.
Because that one person may be an influencer who can affect a lot of other people. So that was my goal on the show, was to... Yeah, we can keep it simple. Yeah, you can say dumbass, that type of thing. But and I know that people listening to this may have children in the car. Mm-hmm. So that's the other reason that we don't want little kiddies picking up any nasty habits. They're starting to run around the playground calling each other dumbass. That's fine. I can live with that. but I don't want to be.
Actually, yeah,
Don't want to be the
I
cause.
just had an afterthought of that one. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
back,
no, but you're right. I mean, it's a responsibility as well.
it is. It's a big responsibility, I think. And I've listened to podcasts, and I've had my daughter in the car, and I've been listening to a message, and it's going really well, and everything's great. And all of a sudden, bang! They just start for about a 60-second period, just dropping Fs like there's no tomorrow. And I'm looking at my daughter, and she's like, "It's nothing she probably hasn't heard before, but it's just you want to limit that exposure."
Yes.
So
Because they pick it up. I mean, children, they're like sponges, aren't they? They just soak everything up and they don't question anything.
I know.
And I've been in adult education, language training since 2001, and teaching adults. We want the security. We ask so many questions, but whereas it's a little child, they really soak everything up, and it really is like putting a dry sponge in water and watching that water be absorbed by that sponge. That's how the child mind works. And so, of course, everything it gives rise to what we call the imprint years, and the imprint years occurs in every child between the ages of 0 and 7 years old. So the people who they spend the most time with are imprinting on that child's subconscious mind, even though they don't realize it. So if they're smoking in front of their children, smoking in the car, swearing in front of their children, it goes into the subconscious mind, and it will play out at some stage later on in life. And so and this is something that I'm really passionate about, and I think that movie directors, soap directors, anybody who is doing anything publicly that can be seen by the general public, have a responsibility to make sure that their content is of high value and that it does not influence people in the wrong way. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be the case.
But that's where things have changed. It's like rules in society have changed. Like I don't know if you're a fan of this show, Mad Men.
I know of it. I've not seen it.
It was based on the advertising industry. I think it was based like during the 60s, and then I think it went into early 70s. And there's one part there where I think the guy walks in to see the doctor because he's had he's passed out and he's had a few panic attacks or something, and he's gone in there, and the doctor has said to him as he sat down, "Cigarette?" He goes, "No, oh yeah, thanks, yeah." So he starts smoking, and he goes, "Oh, do you drink much?" "Oh, I have a couple of scotches, like every day." "Oh yeah, okay, that's fine." Are you smoking?" "Yeah." "Oh, good. That'll help relax you." So it's the thinking of everything has changed. So So as society changes, business changes with it.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's just the progression of the way that things go. So just want to step back a little bit to about your routine. Your routine in the morning, because we were talking about, I mentioned to you about doing the affirmations, and I got confused between doing the most important work first in the morning when your brain is sort of like the most switched on.
It's a bit like having a battery, because we've at the front of the brain we've got the prefrontal cortex, and the prefrontal cortex has 5 primary functions. So it's understanding, deciding, recall, memorizing, and inhibiting. So when we go to sleep at night, we are recharging. It's a bit like a battery. We're recharging all of these functions. So the prefrontal cortex draws a lot of energy. So the type of energy that it uses is metabolic energy, which is sugar and oxygen. As we go through the day, this reserve becomes depleted. So it's a bit like, for example, if somebody comes to you late on in the afternoon, you've had quite a trying and challenging day, and they're pressing you for a decision. But for some reason, this is a decision that is really difficult to make. Yeah. And so what you would normally do is say, look, I'll sleep on it, and I will give you my decision tomorrow. You go home. You go to bed, after you've had your dinner, a couple of glasses of wine, not that we are promoting drinking, of course, and you wake up in the morning, bang, yeah, you make that decision straight away. That is because the prefrontal cortex is fully recharged. And what we don't do in the day is we don't take what we call recovery breaks. Recovery breaks are designed to recharge lost energy. So people, for example, will stop. They'll allow themselves to be distracted. The phone is always here, you know. If you text somebody while they're at work, okay, they will answer because they allow themselves to be distracted, even though they'll say, oh, no, it's okay, it's a quiet moment at the moment. So what the one thing does, it helps you to focus on your most important and challenging work first before you deplete all of the energy in your prefrontal cortex.
So that's the area where you're going to get the most important work done first, is
Absolutely.
Before that part is actually depleted of everything it's got. Get stuck into the things that are really, really important and get them out of the way before the day progresses.
That's right, because everybody is complaining, oh, it's been such a stressful day. What they actually mean, it's been a busy day. So they're running around like headless chickens because, you know, people are overloaded, or they believe they're overloaded. And what they're doing is they're focusing on quantity rather than quality. And then what the one thing does for you, it helps you to really understand the Pareto principle, which means what is the 20% that I must focus on to get 80% of the results.
So the 80-20 rule.
Yeah, that's right. So you concentrate on your most important tasks earlier on in the day that's going to drain as much more energy from your prefrontal cortex, which means that the rest of the day, after those tasks are done that you've identified as your one thing, it also means that the rest of the day you can coast. And it works. It works.
Like I said, when I heard you talk on the that podcast, I took note of that straight away, and I went, okay, I need to start doing this in the mornings. I need to start waking up. Before I went to bed, I would start thinking about what did I have to do the next day? What was the most important stuff? And it's true, like I woke, because I'm writing my next book at the moment. And I know when it's time to start writing my next book, because I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. All of a sudden, I'm lying in bed and my eyes open. I go, oh no, it's 4 o'clock, isn't it? I just get that feeling. I look and I go, it's time to start writing. And it happened for about 7 days in a row. And that's when I thought, okay, to get up and to just start typing, and all of a sudden it's just been coming to me. And the first 3 hours of the day, from about 4 a.m. to about 7 a.m., I am just on fire.
Yeah, so you're doing it automatically. You're already doing it automatically.
I reckon I could almost find the cure for cancer between 4 and 7 in the morning, because my brain is so in tuned. And then once it gets to 7, my daughter wakes up. Yeah, my wife's getting ready for work. We're starting to get into the day, and as I'm doing that, all of a sudden that thinking power starts to diminish a little bit. Then I get phone calls around 8:30, then the emails, and then everything else starts coming through. So what you're saying is absolutely spot on.
Right, because what people don't realize is that if you delay doing these important tasks, then the distractions of the day will stop you doing that. You see? So how does it feel from your perspective when you have been productive between 4 and 7, you've got that work done that you've wanted to do, and then your daughter wakes up, you're running around doing things for your daughter, for your wife, for friends and things, and then you sit down at the end of the day knowing that you've been productive? How does that feel?
Oh, it feels awesome, especially I reckon when you get to about 11 o'clock in the day and all of a sudden you go, I've got so much shit done today. And you realize,
yes!
Holy crap, it's only 11 a.m. and I have done so much stuff. You go, you know what? I could just switch off and watch a midday movie because I've already done so much.
And when you first get into this way of working, it's like, okay, I've got so much time left, and you feel guilty because you have time. And so people, I have a client who is a semi-professional downhill mountain biker, and he's always busy. He's always complaining, oh, I'm so stressful. I've got so many things to do, and I try to tell him, the reason why is because you're not focusing on your one thing. Yeah, but on my to-do list. Yes, your to-do list. So how many things are on your to-do list? 20. I said, so if you looked at your to-do list and you ask, well, which one of these things, can I do right now such that by doing it, it will make everything else easier or unnecessary? Oh, yeah, that's right. And so then out of those 20 things may come 4 or 5 things that he needs to do in that day. So people overcomplicate the days. That's all it is. This is it's a structure. It's about structuring your day.
This conversation fits in perfectly with what my podcast is all about. That's why you're on the show.
I'm great to be. It feels great to be on your show.
So, moving on.
I did a seminar. I did a workshop last week for a company in Upper Austria where I was doing.
I saw you were in Austria.
Yeah, it was. It's heavily based on the one thing, and really, I don't want to come across as being arrogant or self-promoting.
Hey, I don't mind. Arrogance and self-promotion is fine on this podcast.
The feedback was off the scale. There was one particular comment that was made by one of the attendees. It was the best workshop ever. And I think that it's not about, massaging my ego or anything else. I asked myself, well, why was that? And the thing is, it's because you do really add value to people rather than, go in it, from the financial point of view, you are adding value. And this is also about meaning, because part of what I do when I'm doing these workshops is to make people realize that when you add value, that value comes back to you. And in order to give value, 1, you have to be more interested than interesting. And 2, you really have to focus on quality rather than quantity. And these guys just soaked up everything, and the day and a half just went. I couldn't believe where the time went. It was the first one of its kind, and I came away from there, and a few people that I communicated this with, I've been on top of the world, because I'm happy that these people have learned something and they've got tools and tricks that's going to help them to be more effective, more efficient, not just in their work lives, but also in their personal lives as well.
So your role, what would you say your because like I've spoken to you a few times now, and what's your thing? If somebody said, Wilson Lawrence, what do you, your elevator speech, they bumped into you and they said, Wilson, what do you do? What
Hi,
do you
my
tell
name
people?
is Wilson Lawrence, and I'm a personal development and transformation coach. What that means to you is that I take people and I help them to achieve extraordinary results in their lives, whether it be their professional lives or their personal lives. And I do this by putting them through an MOT, which is a vehicle check. So we find out where they're doing well, where they're not doing so well. The areas that we're not doing so well, I don't call them weaknesses. I call them areas of opportunity where, they can improve. So we apply tools to them, and we do this in their professional lives, and I can do this in their personal lives. If it's in their personal lives, I do what is called their life arena check. So there are 7 spheres of life that we all have, that we then grade between 0 and 10. To find out where people are, and then it gives you the one thing. So, for example, what's the one thing that I can do to improve my performance when I am negotiating against a counterpart? Yeah?
Okay,
so this is
that's a great question.
Yeah.
So it's a focusing question.
Yeah. Or somebody might have money problems. Yeah. And I would be the first to admit I've had financial issues. Yeah.
No, we've all had financial issues.
Yeah. You could ask yourself the question, so what is the one thing that I can do, not could or would or should, but what is the one thing that I can do? It's in my power to be able to do this, such that by doing it in my financial sphere of life, it will make everything else easier or unnecessary. And it really is about being honest with yourself, because that answer will come. Everybody knows what their one thing is, but they don't quite often want to admit it to themselves because they think it's going to be painful, it's going to be uncomfortable, it's going to send them into hardship. So it really, really is about focusing in on that one thing.
Okay, so how do people get hold of you? If somebody who's listening to this now and they go if somebody who's listening to this now and they go, holy crap, this Wilson Lawrence dude sounds awesome. How do I get hold of this guy? How do they get hold of you?
Well, they can look me up on LinkedIn under Wilson Lawrence. That is Wilson as in Wilson, Lawrence with a W, Lawrence. I'm also on Zing, which is a professional social networking site, more in Germany and Austria, I think, than anywhere else, under the same name. Or they can find me on Facebook.
I found you on Facebook.
Under Wilson Lawrence.
Cool. No,
I'm also on Instagram and
Yeah,
so.
I just thought it's. I should give you a plug because I know, like, I saw you on Facebook and you were talking to Porsche, or they might call it Porsche over there. I see all this different work that you're doing, and I'm going, you must be doing some really amazing stuff. And I know how much you're into. The best thing is, I love that book, The One Thing.
Yes, it's amazing.
That book was recommended to me by a friend called Rem Jackson. They did like a 6 1-hour talks all about the book, The One Thing, and then I read the book. It is just an awesome book. It's one of I think that there's heaps of books around that are good books. You read them, you go, yeah, I got a few points from it, but there's certain books that I reckon just change the way you think. I like to think my book is one of those, but
I noticed today that you've joined me on LinkedIn.
I did join you on LinkedIn. Okay. I finally hunted you down.
Took your bloody time, mate, didn't you? Okay. Yeah, you joined me on LinkedIn, which was great. But also, what you can do, and I think this is a great idea, is that you take certain sections of your book and you publish them on LinkedIn as an article.
It's a great idea. And I think anyone listening to this also, like, I've had a friend who I interviewed, she's a friend now, but I met her in Fiji a couple of weeks ago, and I interviewed her in my second episode, Adar. And she is huge into LinkedIn. She reckons LinkedIn is her number one business contact program. And she writes articles, and she said that's all the articles she reads is basically through LinkedIn. So you're obviously a LinkedIn fan yourself.
I'm a LinkedIn fan. I mean, I was skeptical to start off with because I started hating anything to do with social media. Facebook, I think I hated. I don't hate Facebook. I don't hate LinkedIn, Zing, but what I did, I hated the way that I was using it, and I got quite irritated with some of the senseless posts that people were making, including posts that I was making. So I then
was this Facebook or which social media?
All of them. All of them. Because can I say this? Yes, I can. I even had. I'm not going to name this person because they're in my Facebook contact list. I don't say friends list. They're in my contact list, and it could be that this person is watching. And I took task to this person. You know who you are, over this person. And it was, the name of the person is sitting on the toilet with a bad case of diarrhea.
Did they show photos?
No.
Well, that's their problem. Now, if they'd posted a couple of photographs, you would have gone, awesome post. But when you just talk about it, sort of back it up with some evidence.
But this is it. You see, when you analyze people's posts, when you analyze your own posts, you see there is a theme. For example, let's post everything about my baby.
Oh.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Don't you hate it when friends have babies?
Let's post everything about my car. Yeah? I post a lot about my dog. I post...
I do see your dog a bit.
Yeah, because I love him. He's flat out on the floor behind me at the moment. Yeah? But every post that I make has got a reason behind it, or I'm poking...
but you also post a lot of some good shit just that makes people think. You did a post today, I think it was, about ego. So, like I see a lot of your posts come through. Some of them are long, and I read through it, and you share what you're not just sharing what you're thinking, like, oh, gee, it's a nice day and I saw a bird. It's, this is what I'm thinking. This is my opinion on something. And I heard... another person on a podcast I was listening to, it might have been Gary V actually, and he was saying, start posting your opinions. So what you think, what's going through your mind on a daily basis, and people can decide for themselves whether they agree or disagree. They don't have to agree with you, but it's getting your thoughts out there, not just conforming to what everybody else is actually saying.
No, but the thing is, this is really interesting that you say this, because on your show, I think that people should realize everybody has an opinion. Even babies have an opinion. Yes. Babies will have an opinion. Opinions really are probably the lowest rungs of intellect, because everybody has an opinion. And you know the idiom, opinions are like bottom holes. Everyone's got them and they all stink.
That was a polite way of saying that. That was good.
Okay, there's another way. Sorry. Yeah, you can bleep that one out. Or
no. I don't edit. There's no edits in this. We just talk.
Or opinions are like sphincter muscles. Everyone's got them, but it's not the done thing to open them in public.
I like that one better, I think.
Yeah, okay. Well, no.
No, stop there.
The whole thing about the whole thing about opinions is everybody's got an opinion, but they've got to have a reason for making that opinion. Yeah, because if they don't have a reason for making that opinion, I'm sorry, that in my opinion, then it's an uninformed opinion.
So what that's what I reckon. I don't think it's a problem having opinion. Like somebody else on another podcast is talking about, you have your opinions, and as long as you can back up your opinions with evidence that you've researched, and you haven't just heard somebody else say something and therefore you take it verbatim that's exactly right, that's when people start looking stupid. Yeah, when they start talking about, okay, let's pick on the paleo diet. Not saying that there's anything wrong.
Be careful, because I am a CrossFitter and lots of my friends are CrossFitters.
I know. I knew you were...
Yeah, and one of my CrossFitting friends is now watching on Facebook Live. Bernard Rimmer, I can see you. Yeah.
Okay,
but I don't know if he's done. Don't know if no, but it's okay.
No, what I was going to say, it's not. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the paleo diet. What I find funny is when people will hear 3 or 4 people talk about the paleo diet, and all of a sudden they will just jump on it. They will do it. They will follow it 100%, and they will praise. They'll spread the word about the paleo thing, and then if you ask them, what was it about it that got you into it the most? What was the one thing about it that really? And they go, I heard about it at CrossFit.
This is called the bandwagon effect.
Yeah, and I'm like, there's no problem with doing the paleo diet, but what was your reasoning behind wanting to do the paleo diet? Now, if you read something about it and you thought, wow, that was really interesting, that makes sense to me for reason 1, 2, and 3. Yep. Then you go and do it. So if somebody said to you, "Oh, I'm on the paleo diet," "Oh, I think that's crap." "Oh, yeah, but 1, 2, and 3," and they go, "Oh, never thought about that." But if you just go, "I'm on the paleo diet," and they go, "Why?" and you go, "Because I heard about it at CrossFit," then
and it's the CrossFit thing to do, of course.
Yeah. So I think that's quite interesting.
Also, I love CrossFit. Don't get me wrong.
I know you're a CrossFitter.
And I'm probably going to get shot down in flames, but CrossFit it's very, very exhausting. And at the end of every WOD means workout of the day. There are a percentage of athletes who just collapse on the floor, like they're dying. Yeah, because they're exhausted. And it becomes a thing for me. I've been on the floor, but only because I've really been put on the floor.
Yeah.
But I sometimes get the feeling that people do it because it's a CrossFit thing to do. Now, I'm an ex-Viking, from the 1st Battalion, the Royal Anglian Regiment, and we are told you never, ever go on the floor. And so this is a pride thing, and we are always told you stand up to recover. You never, ever go on the floor to recover. And I take pride in myself as a 54-year-old man, that
You're
I can do
bugger.
that. Yeah, old twat you. But right back at... Actually, how old are you?
51 very soon.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
I'm a
You
child.
had to think about it then.
Yeah, I'm a child. With my
so
youthful complexion.
It's all about the bandwagon effect. The bandwagon effect is jumping on. Like we saw it with the ice bucket challenge. Remember?
Oh yeah. Push-up challenge.
Yeah, the push-up challenge. We saw it with the Harlem. What was it? The Harlem Shuffle, the Harlem Shake. I think they were calling it, and this is all about the bandwagon effect. If I don't jump on the bandwagon, I'm going to be left behind.
Yeah.
This is all it is. So,
and this applies to business big time.
Yeah.
Huge.
The way we advertise, the way we market. One of my clients, which is my oldest private client, they make state-of-the-art packaging machines for the food industry. I really like their way of thinking because they're moving forward. One of my students there, her name is Rosina. I'm going to give her a shout out because she's awesome. She likes wine too.
Yeah.
And and she's a good cook. And she, I like her way of thinking because she's one of these people in a very traditional company who's trying to push the way of thinking forwards. So they're not jumping on the bandwagon. They're being individual. And this little Bavarian company is doing business on a global stage. And I'm really proud that I'm part of that, helping them to be effective and efficient.
That's cool.
Right. Yeah, up to director level, right down to the apprentices.
So just by having that, so they're taking their own thoughts and not just following what everybody else is doing, copying them, coming up with their own ideas, which I think is great.
Coming up with their own ideas, and and my role there kind of has changed because when I first went there, I was just teaching English, but now I'm infusing personal development, marketing, other communication skills in everything that I do. So what I do is I've created kind of like a brand for myself that nobody else is actually doing in Austria or in Germany, because people are coming they want to know how to operate on an effective and efficient basis, through sales, through marketing, through public speaking. It covers everything. And I really haven't fully realized the full potential of this, but work's coming in. If I showed you my year planner, it's full. I'm booked up until November the 30th.
That's awesome. Yeah. I've got nothing on tomorrow. No, I'm only joking.
Yes, you do.
I've got so much to do tomorrow.
But the thing is, it's like planning. It's like planning your work around what the things that I love to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like, I've got so much work to do today. I time block. And this is what we're getting wrong. People are not time blocking.
Yeah, the time blocking thing I think is just huge. But before we go into the time blocking, our time is sort of getting really limited right now. I want to get you back on because one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was a few months back we spoke about the 5 messages that most motivational speakers and that are talking about. Remember we touched on that particular point? We're saying there's only like 5 messages that people are sharing on a regular basis.
Yes, and everybody's regurgitating the same rubbish.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say it like that.
No, that's right. But what I want to get you back on. I want to get you back on another episode just to talk on those 5 things. Because
yes, I'll be happy to do that.
I know we're over time already, but I reckon anyone that's listening to this, if they haven't got some good stuff out of this particular conversation, then they need to give themselves an uppercut.
Can I just interrupt you?
Go for it.
Because this is not all from me. I want to pay my gratitude, express gratitude and appreciation for Jacob Nawrocki of the Operation Self Reset.
Well, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have found you. So yes, Jake,
exactly.
Thumbs up.
Yeah. Jeff Woods of the Mentee, Alan Eidson, also of the Mentee, a good friend of mine, Vadim Markis. We got together in the Mindset by Design. And these are people who have all been instrumental in my transformation. Other people such as Thomas Berger, he's one of the CrossFit instructors in Salzburg. In fact, most of the CrossFit community in Salzburg have also been instrumental in my development, particularly he's a great athlete, and his name is David Ejedi. I've been coaching him, and he's a fantastic guy, and he's going to go far. And he would be great to get on your show. You
can pass me his details. That'd be great. But
I will.
What I really like what you just did then. But what I like what you did then was where you talk to some people and they look at their success and they think all the success was because of them, but they don't realize your success or how successful you are, you owe it, and like the gratitude to so many people who have helped you along the way. And you got to look back at the people who have helped you, and you got to thank them for helping you. And I think sometimes we forget that.
These guys have all been instrumental in my transformation, and I think that the one message from all of this, especially with the morning routine, it is not a chore. It's an investment into your success, and it's an investment, and it's a tool that will help you to be more effective and efficient, because it has a knock-on effect. It's this geometric progression that it causes. You knock down that small domino, and the big one up here falls down later. It has, but people think, oh no, getting up at 5 o'clock, no, it's too much. It's a chore. Get out of bed and just start your morning routine, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, I reckon that's awesome advice, and I reckon that's a perfect note to finish on. Thank you very much for being on my podcast. And
thank
like
you very
I said,
much.
well, I hope you enjoyed listening to Wilson Lawrence today. And like I mentioned last week when I did the rebroadcast with Dave Freeze, I think some of this information, if you've heard it before, you'll be glad to actually hear it a second time. If this is the first time you've heard it, I think you'll be glad that I decided to reshare it, because it's not very often that people will go back right to episode 1 of a podcast series, especially when you're getting close to 200, and start listening all the way through. So I've enjoyed actually putting these rebroadcasts together, and I'm going to have a few more in the future. Don't know how many I'm going to do, but I'm just going to scroll through what has gone out in the past, what has been really popular, what I've gotten a lot of good feedback on, that I think is worth hearing again. And I can tell even just by looking at the show notes that there was a lot of content in this particular episode and in some of the future ones I'm going to bring. So I hope you're enjoying it. I'd love your feedback. Please send me an email, tf@tysonfranklin.com. Before I go, just want to mention, if you haven't picked up a copy of my book, It's No Secret There's Money in Small Business, it is available from my website, tysonfranklin.com. I'll post it anywhere in Australia, but if you live overseas, it's probably easier just to go to Amazon, Booktopia, and order it through there. Or if you're a podiatrist, you might prefer It's No Secret There's Money in Podiatry. Okay, that's it for me this week. Look after yourself, look after your family, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye for now.